Today, the Senate Judiciary Committee held a confirmation hearing for Donald Trump's choice for Attorney General, former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Ms. Bondi, you were a courtroom prosecutor for a great many years. As a courtroom prosecutor, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
And you went on to be Florida's Attorney General. As Florida's Attorney General, did you ever have an enemies list?
No, Senator.
Would you have hired someone into the Florida Attorney General's office who you knew had an enemies list?
Senator, to cut to the chase, you're clearly talking about Kash Patel. I don't believe he has an enemies list. He made a quote on TV, which I have not heard. I saw your sign, or Senator Durbin's sign, about Kash. But I know that Kash Patel has had 60 jury trials as a public defender, as a prosecutor. He has great experience in the Intel Department, Department of Defense. I have known Kash, and I believe that Kash is the right person at this time for this job. You'll have the ability to question Mr. Patel.
And I'm questioning you right now about whether you will enforce an enemies list that he announced publicly on television.
Oh, Senator, I'm sorry. There will never be an enemies list within the Department of Justice.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, our next guest, asked Pam Bondi about this statement made by Donald Trump's choice to head the FBI.
The FBI's footprint has gotten so freaking big, and the biggest problem the FBI has come out of its intel shops. I'd break that component out of it. I'd shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one and reopening the next day as a museum of the deep state.
What is the FBI's role in national security and counterterrorism, and how important is that role?
You know, Senator, I believe now more than ever, counterterrorism is so important and vital in our country. We are facing such incredible threats here and abroad.
Given that importance, is it responsible to call for shutting down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work? And will you, as Attorney General, impede or shut down the FBI's counterterrorism and national security work?
Senator,
2 questions.
Senator, I believe that national security is vital right now for our country on so many fronts. I could continue to discuss many others.
And the FBI's role in that?
And the FBI plays a vital role in counterterrorism
which
throughout
you will
our
or will
world.
not shut down.
I will look at each agency. I have no intention of shutting anything down right now, Senator. I am not in that office yet, and if confirmed, I will look at each individual agency and how it should be managed, but counterterrorism right now in our world is vital.
So were you completely reassured?
You know, in many respects, she was terrific. She's twice elected Attorney General of a major state. Mm-hmm. She said all the right things about rule of law, protecting the institutions, no fear or favor, all of that. And then you fly into sort of the Trump sensitivity no-fly zone, and everything suddenly went haywire. And she couldn't answer the question whether Joe Biden won the election. She couldn't say that there was not present predication to prosecute Jack Smith. There were, and what was strange about that is that her big issue is, can you be independent from Trump? Will you be a legit, honest, stand-up independent attorney general, or will you be his tool and his stooge? And in her answers, she was usually very good until they hit stuff that connected to Trump. And the change in the conduct, the change in the quality of the answers sent a really powerful signal that, oh my God, there really is something going on around Trump with her, where the answers suddenly collapse when she's so good when you're talking about things that aren't touching that Trump area.
If you cut back to the first confirmation hearing for a Trump Attorney General, Senator Jeff Sessions was very careful to try to make it very clear to the committee that no, he would absolutely be independent and he wouldn't be taking orders from the president. There's really no attempt to do that here.
Much less of an attempt. I think she will say, I will be a strong and independent Attorney General. in those general words, and then you ask her for something that tests that proposition, like, can you tell us that Joe Biden won?
Right.
And she can't do that.
Right.
Just can't do that. So it's almost as if there's some kind of like strange magnetic force around Trump, a force field that the strong Pam Bondi that we see in regular questions collapses under that force, I guess. It was very odd. She was very, very good until it hit Trump sensitivity, and then complete collapse.
One thing that seems to be on Donald Trump's mind is the 25th Amendment. There were reports from inside the Trump administration, especially after January 6th, that there was a discussion of the 25th Amendment, which is to say use the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to then basically they can vote the president out. And this seems to be a choice of cabinet officials where Donald Trump is very conscious of the 25th Amendment, making sure 100% of them would not ever be in a discussion of using the 25th Amendment, no matter what he does.
Yeah. And it's particularly scary in the first presidency that will be operating under the Chief Justice Roberts' immunity decision, where he is allowed to use cabinet officials, his tools of power, to commit crimes. That is in the core presidential powers, and therefore full immunity. And if they're worried about their criminal immunity, he pardons them. So you could essentially run a full-on criminal enterprise by this president through this cabinet scot-free. And certainly that makes independence in the Attorney General, even if she can't prosecute, to at least call things out and defend the rule of law, a pretty vital characteristic, and it was one that we only saw nominally and rhetorically, not in her actual ability to answer in matters that would have been touchy with Trump and MAGA.
In the Department of Justice, the FBI resides in the Department of Justice.
Yeah.
How is the authority divided between the Attorney General and the FBI Director over the FBI? So Kash Patel's sick dreams about the FBI, is that something that the Attorney General can just step in and go, no, you can't do that?
The FBI Director is appointed by the President, not by the Attorney General.
You'll have a confirmation hearing for him.
Yeah. And so in theory, there's a direct line of report to the President. But in practice, the Attorney General and the Deputy have an enormous amount to say about what goes on within the FBI. There's always tension between the two offices, but fundamentally, the FBI Director reports to the Attorney General.
As you go forward in the confirmation process, and by the way, so Pam Bondi, your assessment of her vote in the Senate, there's no hints so far of any Republican?
No hint. In fact, celebratory support for her on the Republican side.
Yeah. So we can assume she's going to get the Republican votes for confirmation on the Senate floor.
At this point, I would think that would be the case.
What is your sense of how the Kash Patel confirmation hearing will go in your committee?
I think they're rallying. You know, there's immense pressure to get behind even as flawed and damaged and strange a candidate as Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
And so I think they've learned over time that as long as they all move together, as long as there's no defection, and as long as they all spout the same line, they can get away with a lot. And there are very powerful forces, from the pressure of the incoming president to the billions of Elon Musk to the flying monkeys on the internet of the far right who threaten people with having their children killed and all that kind of stuff when they get out of line. They are under really, really immense pressure. And you see it in the collapse of concern about I mean, can you imagine if a Democrat candidate for FBI came in with a left-wing enemies list? Their heads would explode.
Not one element in the bios of these nominees any single one of those elements would sink any Democratic nominee for anything in a Senate confirmation hearing.
Yeah, we have not learned the skill of gathering in a phalanx like centurions and marching through a field of lies.
Yeah, to defend lies. Yeah, you're not very good at that. Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, thank you very much for joining our discussion tonight.